over the weekend, I got to talking to one of my friends about the benefits of journaling and what I like about it. And he had some questions. How do you journal? So I figured to make a video, send it to him, and also post it on my channel so that other people will have something that I find very helpful. So one of the journaling that I do is I focus and I concentrate on my vision for life and what I want. I write about how I'm going to get there, the feelings associated with how I'm going to get there, and I can come back to this at a later date and read my journal, and doing so tap into the feelings and focus I felt while writing it. There's also another type of journaling where I wrote down my 10 goals for life and the actions and habits I can implement every single day in order to get there. And then I read this every morning, at lunch, and last thing at night in order to focus myself and kind of keep myself on track. It's kind of like shooting a missile off and then making little course corrections along the way and just making sure you're headed in the right direction. There's also different types of journaling. There's one I call attack and defend, which is what am I doing and why. And you get into the nit and grit of it. You look at your habits. You're like, here's one I did for audiobooks. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I like audiobooks, but I also find they can be detrimental in their own way. So I wrote down the pros and the cons. So one of my fond memories is listening to the Odyssey while walking around in Copenhagen. Then I wouldn't have listened to The Godfather and many other great books if I didn't have audiobooks. Then the cons takes me out of being present in the moment. I go to bed later than I want sometimes. It often puts me on autopilot. Like when you're doing a task, when you're doing chores and you start listening to audiobooks, you often don't question, why are we doing this? Does this make sense? Is this the most important thing I can be working on? Sometimes you'll wind up just like sweeping out the garage, which is just going to get dirty the next time you pull your car in. I also find it difficult to focus after prolonged periods of listening to an audiobook. And basically I journal about this, and then I came to, well, it's not really audiobook's good or bad. It's how do I consume information in a way that serves me best rather than distracts me from the life I want to live. And I came to the conclusion that I basically need to do it consciously and like do 2 to 3 hours a day. If I want to listen to audiobook, no more than 2 to 3 hours a day, not while working on like my actual job. If I want to listen to audiobook on a walk, I'm gonna not listen to it for more than half of the walk so that I have more time to reflect. And reflecting is really key to a lot of this. Like I'm gonna sound old here, back in the day when we used to watch TV, like you had one episode a week. I remember the TV show Once Upon a Time or Fringe. Like my whole family would gather on the couch and we would watch the show on TV, and then we would talk about it the next day. I'd go to bed thinking about it. I'd analyze what I think the characters are going to do, what are their motivations, do I agree with what they're doing, do I think they could have done it better, do I look for plot holes. And like part of the fun is discussing this, thinking about the ideas, and not just consuming it, which is, if I don't check in on myself, something I'll do, I'll consume audiobooks and won't really think about them that much. But there's way I use this as I also use journaling as a way of organizing my thoughts, where you sit down and you write questions and then you answer those questions. So this kind of has a tree effect to it. You have a question like, why can't I sleep, or how do I sleep better? And then you branch off. You're like, okay, nutrition, physical activity, bedtime routine. And then for nutrition, you might be like, what supplements should I take? And that's a question. And then those supplements will branch off, like what dosage do I take? How do I take it? How do I stack these things? And it's a way of organizing the thoughts. And you take one thing, you kind of expand it out, and you keep writing questions and answering those questions. And then eventually you're like, oh, I understand it really well. It's the same thing I recommend when I was a TA to kids. Like, write down what you don't know, then answer that, and then write down what you still don't know, and then answer that. And it's a way of teaching yourself. In doing this, you see how everything fits into place. There's reflective journaling. What did I do? How do I do it better? Where you just write down at the end of the day. I also I often recommend people I use the Arc notebook system. So the pages just come out like this. There's a special hole punch you use. You can use a 3-hole punch binder as well, but I like being able to take pages out, print pages, put them in. You can make templates for yourself, like 3 things I'm grateful for, what did I do today, how can I do it better, what's a system that I can implement in order to make sure I follow my habits. Just any questions you want to ask yourself to check in. It's an easy way to kickstart the journaling process. I also like being able to shuffle pages around. Finally, your journal is not a dead piece of paper. You're not writing this so that no one will ever read it and that you will have it thrown away after you die by a person who does not care. Read your journal. Use sticky notes and different colored pens and annotate it, mark it up, read it. I use these. So my journal, let's see, it has all of these side stickies on it. I'll have to find the page in a second. And I use them in order to, let's see where, I have it written down in the color code. I use pink for questions that I still have to answer, orange for actions to take, yellow for things to think more about, blue for important, and I still haven't come up with something for green. But you write them down, you come back to it, you use it, you read your journal, you write down new thoughts about it, you annotate it, you answer questions that you had, and you put those pages in right behind where you asked the question. And it's a living, breathing document. Like, it will change, it evolves, it grows, and you need a way of doing it. A spiral notebook does not work well. I like being able to physically read it. I'm not a big fan of having a digital one. I will type sections up if my hands are cramping, and I'll print them off and put them in. I will, if I read a book and I want to, I have a long quote that I want to think more about, I'll print off the quote. Then you can also use journaling to conduct the scientific method on yourself, your habits, and your life. And the scientific method is basically just hypothesis, test the hypothesis, reform the hypothesis, create a new test. I think magnesium is going to help me sleep. Then you track your sleep, you track the dosages you take magnesium, you form a conclusion, and then you make a new hypothesis and you test that. It's really good. It's like improve 1% a day. Do that. And that could be one of the things you put in your reflective journal, your template. Just how do I improve each day? How do I improve 1%? You can use it as a way to track quotes, realizations you had, and think about how to apply them to your life. You can ask yourself why, and keep asking yourself why. Why did I do this? Why does this work? Why did my wife/friend do this? I feel this way. Why? What can be done? What can I do better? Just question everything. If someone came up to you on the street and they looked at your life and why? Think about what would you say? You don't have to get too neurotic about it, but if you do get neurotic, question why you're getting neurotic. Question the thoughts you have, question why you have those thoughts, and just reflect upon this. And it's a way of organizing it together. There's also something called, it's like the 7 whys, and there's a surface level why you're doing something. Where I work, I don't know, say you have a father and he's like, I work 3 jobs so that, in order to provide for my family. And he basically just kills himself working, and he never questions it more than that. But if he actually stopped and questioned it, he'd be like, well, does my family want me to work 3 jobs? What if I work 1 job and we just have less money? We don't travel, we don't have a nice car, we maybe downgrade our house, but I can spend more time with my kids. I say I work this because I say I'm doing it for my family, but am I doing it because I like this? And you kind of question that, so that you don't wake up one day and you're like, oh shit, my family actually wanted me to be home and spend time with them, and they didn't care if we had a nice car or if we went on vacations, and I would rather only work 1 job, be a little bit poor, but have a more fulfilling thing. Question. Then it's a way of thinking, organizing your thoughts. Literally writing down your thoughts on paper and then arranging the pages around will help you organize the thoughts in your head. And when the thoughts in your head are organized, they're easier to access and use. It's creating a framework for your thoughts. It's organizing a mental bookshelf of ideas where you know what section of your brain kind of to look for, or you're creating frameworks. If your brain feels really fuzzy, if it feels really like you have a million things rushing around, just write them down. Write each one down as a page header, and just each one of your little thoughts, write it down. And then organize the thoughts, group like with like, and then go through each one of the thoughts, question it, write down, answer the questions. Like when you question something, answer the question. Don't just write 1,000 questions and never do it. Because I mean, you can do that. You can write 1,000 questions and never actually answer them, never apply the answers and actually put them to use. It would kind of be like reading a self-help book and never actually taking action on what they say to do in it. But that is currently the different methods I use for journaling. If you have any questions, drop them down below and I'll answer them. And hopefully you found this helpful. I find journaling very helpful for focus. I find focus to be one of the most important things you can have in order to do anything. Like if you can't focus on something, it won't happen. So peace out.